welcome to this game overview from a tournament that I was at just about a week ago at this point at Guild down in Bordentown. They had moved, so I actually had to look up what town it was technically in. I know how to get there, and I know it's not far from the old store, but I couldn't remember where it was. So we had an 8-person tournament. So the game I'm going to discuss here is actually the third game that I played. I might go back and do the other ones. I'm going back and forth on that. I do want to do it, but I have to see if I can get something useful out. I'll probably record it and then decide whether or not it's any good. Specifically, the reason why I wanted to do the third game is because I thought of the ones I played, it had some of the most interesting in terms of things to talk about. Now, this wasn't a fully recorded game, just because I don't naturally record that story. I didn't have necessarily set up. I'm sure I'd be able to, and maybe in the future will do so, but wasn't doing it for this one. So what we ended up doing then is I took some pictures. Now, I realized after the fact I want to take more pictures through the turns rather than just more at the end of the turn, but I do want to discuss what happened because I thought this one had some particularly interesting parts to it. Keep in mind, if you want to pick up any of the models you happen to see or anything else, we do have a discount code in the show notes below. It's Train Kickers, saves you 10%, helps us out, and all of that. So what I want to start with then is going over a bit of the list, the mission, and all of that, and then we'll go through, maybe not, we'll look at the different turns. Won't go through every little nitty-gritty detail, but talk about the high points as well as the big decision points that were made, a bit on both sides, of course. So for this particular mission, as we're going to see, this one is scenario 3 from the packet Breakout. Breakout has 3 9-inch zones. You have 2 objective markers on the middle zone. One is friendly to you, one is friendly to your opponent, and essentially you can't score the middle until you destroy it. Until you destroy the one that's the opponent of yours, obviously. Essentially what this works is you get 3 VPs for the objective marker, 2 for an objective zone you're taking, 1 extra if you got 2 or more zones, 2 points for the warlord, but between rounds 1 to 4 and 9 to 10, you get extra ones for the ones on the outside, so that means the outsides are worth 3, 2 in the middle, and then an extra 2 points from the one in the middle between 5 and 8. So essentially, it gives you till turn 5 to destroy the enemy objective marker in the middle, because then that one's worth 4 points through it. So, not super high scoring particular mission. You're looking at, max of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 9 or so points a turn. Maybe technically 10, but about 9. Much more average to be probably realistically the 3 to maybe 7 or so. But as we're going to see, kept it really low scoring. All right, we're going to go through my list first. So for my list for this, came in 1995. We have Maharaj as the warlord. I personally, if anyone plays Sorcerer Kings and has taken one of the other models as the warlord to a legitimate, not like, I'm going to try something weird and funny, but has legitimately done it, I would love to know, because I haven't found a reason to ever not have him be the warlord. Everyone in this list is fire-based when they have a choice of what to take. So he is fire-based. The only thing that's honestly not fire-based is the Windborn Djinn. Everything else is. He is actually going to be on the Mahut, as you see right there. So favorite of Hormus. Eye of the Blazing Tempest, so that way when he does his ritual action, he heals off of the distance of the Mahut. Within 8 inches of that, heals people for 3. So 1 helps out the Mahut because the Mahut will have the elemental. The Mahut, since he's on it, gets Born of Fire, which means now it gets the ritual extra activation piece. So I can do a fire ritual, draw the next card, it's the Mahut. The Mahut now is Born of Fire, so now it counts. And it has this nice sort of bubble when he goes that really stretches out where to count from. He also has the Shalat. The Shalat, for anyone who doesn't remember, it used to give you Devout, no longer does that. What it does now is when you do the ritual action of putting down 1 token on a new, when you essentially start a new ritual, you get to start it with 2 instead of 1. So with his combination of when you would put a marker down on a token, instead of 1 marker, you may put 1 marker on 2 different tokens. That's what makes him so strong. You can really get your rituals going. Helps even get into objectives as well, because of Element the Conduit, but still. Has a Mahut, and he also has the 3-pack of Maharabati Initiates, because I painted a whole bunch of them. I painted 6 stands of them, and they're all hanging out here. So I wanted to take them no matter what. Their flame, of course, as well. Took a Raj. Raj has absolutely nothing special on him. He goes in a unit of 3 Rajakar. Originally, I had it with more. I trimmed it down to be able to fit a ghoul unit into this. 2 3-packs of a free Sword Dancers and a Windborn Djinn. Also, the Windborn Djinn in a previous term I had was a 4-pack. Again, I trimmed it down. That and the Rajakar got me enough to be able to get a ghoul unit. Thought about putting extra on him, but if he's going into Rajakar, anything extra is a waste. I do put a Kadukavach. I know some people like to put it on the Raj. Me personally, I don't. The reason I don't put it on my Raj is because my Raj tends to be further forward, which makes it more likely for him to get destroyed, which means my Kadukavach potentially goes away much earlier. Last bit, Sorcerer. She has the Kadukavach with her. She is a unit of 4 Denur Disciples, staying at the back, hopefully surviving through. A little 3-pack of ghouls, and the Ravarna. I take the Ravarna because I want more monster hunting, and I want that cleave too, because otherwise my list really doesn't have much. Has a little bit from the Mahut, has a little bit from the Maharabati Initiates, although the Initiates have the ability to go down really fast to swings. So I want that heavier bit of cleave, and I want Fiend Hunter. I want to be able to actually go hunt down monsters. This army needs that big centerpiece to be able to go hunt them down. The Mahut can do it, although I want to be careful where I put it since it has my Maharaj on it. So I do like the Ravarna for that. Plus, it's about 20 points cheaper, and I think overall, for most lists that I build now, it is the better option. Plus, it's now finally painted. I was taking the other one more often because it wasn't painted. This one wasn't. I put the ghouls in because I want first turn presence and I want reinforcement zones. Let's take a look at my opponent's list. So I went against Dweghom in this one. It was a very, very shooting list. So Tempered Sorcerer on a Helldrake with a Fireforged, another Tempered Sorcerer on a Helldrake with Fireforged. One of those Tempered Sorcerers is the Warlord, so it'll get the double cast. School of Magma, so you have that really good spell of 4 hits at the flank at -1, causing that resolve. As long as you get enough, as long as you succeed, it just does an auto 4. And this does mean they have the ability to put that token out 8 inches, spell off of that essentially a further 8. It's a 3-inch bubble. It does some other effects if you get close enough, but I just didn't get close enough. It counts I think it counts as like difficult or dangerous. It does some terrain effects, but I never got close to that. But it essentially lets you take spells that are maybe 12, 14 inches, make them 16 inches. Really helps out. Also, a little 3-pack of Whole Ballista with a Standard Bearer and a Herald of Magma. Herald of Magma obviously is giving them a little bit of Aura of Death. Standard Bearer, so that way, if they have to get into something to tie you up, they have that ability to do so. We have a Holray. He's got 2 Iron Drakes, so that's a 4-monster list. Big, big list. And 2 units of Hold Warriors. Hold Warriors are actually pretty good. Hold Warriors are pretty cheap. Defense 3, Resolve isn't too great, but one of them has the Hold Ra in it, so helps out quite a bit on that. And Vanguard as well, so they are moving up 13 inches up the board. Pretty good at being able to go slap down onto an objective, or potentially tie someone up for one of these giant monsters to either be shooting into it, charging it, or casting magic onto it. So let's go take a look at at least parts of the game. Now, like I said, I don't have tons and tons of pictures, but I have enough to be able to kind of discuss the things that end up happening throughout this game. So, turn 1, we each only essentially have 1 lights. He has some Whole Ballista. I have my ghouls. As you can see from with this, the blue is the objective that I want to destroy. The yellow is the objective he wants to destroy. We actually originally had that reversed, but we both kind of came on with the positioning, thinking to go against the other one, so we just swapped who had which. Obviously, it doesn't matter whatsoever. You're also going to notice I use my special Old Dominion piece that I bought. I forget where I got it. I'll put it in the show the show notes if I find it. Because it is quite good. Because one thing it means is if I'm not actually running Old Dominion, I track my victory points on myself. I track on the Dark Power pool my opponent's victory points. So, nice little push. Like I said, what I like about this, these guys are Vanguard. I want to say it's 3. So 12, they're what, up 16 inches up the board then? Are they Vanguard 3 or are they Vanguard 4? Trying to remember right now. Vanguard 4, thank you. I forgot about that. They're 6 move. They have a standard and Vanguard 4. So they can potentially up the board than 17 inches. I didn't push them quite as far because I want them in the forest. I know. So this was a list I don't want to say like wasn't looking forward to playing as meaning like anything against it. No, my opponent, I believe his name was Russ, absolutely great guy, had a great game. One of the as we're going to see, one of the overall really close, really tactful, really felt like you make the wrong choice, that's just going to lose you the game kind of feels. And knowing that's a lot of shooting lists, normally these guys would be rushing up, but I didn't want to throw them away. And I felt like pushing them any further, then they're just enough in the forest that everyone's in it. So disrupting those shots, anything more felt bad. Now, I want to kind of take this from a tactical approach. So I want to kind of explain my thought process in this. I know he has tons of shooting. I know that whoever engages first, probably, unless they do it correctly, will be at a disadvantage. Mostly because I only have 1 shooting unit. 2 shooting units, my apologies. I have the Denor and I have the Windborn. So I have 2 shooting units. I do outrange him. He's got a couple, 14s, some 18s, but he doesn't have anything sitting at 20. And so I can hit him before he can hit me. I do want to try to do that. What I want to avoid then is him getting aimed shots into me. I want to be able to get the aimed shots into him, which means I'm going to sit right at the max distances I can get that's outranging his potential distances, especially with the 20-inch one because he doesn't have anything that actually hits that far. His other units, I don't think they actually hit quite as far. So Fireforged are 14 with that AP2, which is pretty rough. Tempered Sorcerers are looking at 16. Hellbringer Drakes are 16 as well, but remember they start with 10, they can overcharge, so very quickly they could be 12 shots at AP2. Fireforged are the 14, Hullbliss are the 18, so that's his 118 unit, which is the ones right there. So I would push far ahead if there's maybe a little bit of shooting, but since there's tons of shooting, there's essentially 3 shooting units and 2 shooting monsters, and those monsters are mediums, which means starting next turn, he could have all that in. I don't want to just throw these guys away. I felt, at least from the starting point, that I might need them to either tie into a shooting unit or block something up. So, this shows us where we are at the bottom of turn 2. So turn 2, we both had not tons and tons of luck. He autoed in his Warlord on his Hellbringer Drake. I ended up picking, of course, he picked the other Hellbringer Drake to bring in as well. I auto in the Sorcerer, so that way I can, 1, start getting some bow presence on the board, but I also autoed her in because I want to start having the option of that Kadu Kavach helping me out. I was able to get 1 more unit, so I just brought on the Raj. Not in this one, actually, in the next round, we're going to see it'll be off to the side here. That's where my Windborn Jinn will go. They're not quite caught on camera. I tried to back up, but I guess I missed it when I took the pictures. But this way, I can start some different spells. I start a Conflagration. I start an Incite Rage. My goal, of course, is I want to be able to cast extra spells, which is very useful for a variety of things, especially for potentially healing purposes. And Incite Rage, because getting shock, especially when you have a good amount of your units that have impact, and when it comes to the Mahut, without shock, he's only on 3s. He's on 2s for his impact and only on 3s. Otherwise, not great. I'd rather get him to 3s on impact and then 4s. So I'm getting shock ready to be able to hit one or the other. The Painted is the Warlord. That is the main key, because that Warlord casts in those 2 spells. Keep in mind, when you're looking at School of Magma, one of them lets you throw out your token 8 inches. Then you cast 8 from that. So if he's the one who puts it out, he could then, if I'm essentially within 16 of him, he can hit me with the spell for Magma. And then the other one can hit me with that spell, because any of them may draw a range from it. Another thing to keep in mind here, Pirate Class is a spell. That's what I was looking at. It is, an Eruption is when Magma Seep, I think, is where he puts the token down. 8 inches out, and Pyroclast is only an 8-inch range, but it can come out of that magnetic steep, out of that token. So that's really how you get ranges on it. It's essentially 5 inches outside of the zone, which the zone is 3 inches. So essentially, that's how you end up getting it. Keep in mind also, when they successfully cast some spells, you get some markers, and you can those markers to be automatic successes on a variety of things, usually in terms of defense, which is what's going to end up happening. Goal of this, I need to get onto objectives. I know with this, the problem is he obviously pushes forward to cover fully. So if I push on, it's a problem. That means I need to delay when I go. So I need to have, if this unit wants to take the objective, they need to go last or near last. Turn 2, no one scores a thing. He did shoot, he did put, get a point of damage onto this. That was about it. Nothing else really happened in turn 2. This is just a marker showing that, hey, we had no score. We're going from turn 2, turn 3. So I mark it so that way I know when I move forward. Turn 3, we see we got a whole lot more on. So it's hard to see over here, but my Windborn are over here. They take some pot shots. I always tend to, if there's no reason not to, have, especially early on, my shooting units go last. So they were the very last unit, because I know at 20-inch range, when they come on, they're able to come on from a bit of a reinforcement line. That gives them a good shot if you get within 27. Which, because they're 4 or 5 inches up the board, if you're like 30 some inches, so if you really move on, we can get it. He comes on from the side so that we can go grab this objective with these warriors. I'm able to put some pot shots into it. It's only a couple wounds, nothing too big there. He has another unit of, let me just make sure I mention which one is which. There it is. Fireforged there. Fireforge unit there. He gets one of his Iron Drakes. He does not actually get the other one. So with his one Ironclad Drake, I'll just call it Iron Drake, he puts it right behind the Fireforged. Now, you'll notice they didn't move at all. We're now in turn 3. I would like, one, the unit can't score anyway. I'm not worried about destroying my objective because, one, he hasn't taken it out yet. He did put one more point of damage onto it, but he's not at the 3 yet. He did shoot both of them at it. If memory serves, it was the whole ballista that did the damage. The Drake, actually, when he fired at the Hellforged Drake, didn't actually get it. He got, I think, 1 through. I saved it, and that's at like the AP2. I saved that. I rolled a 1. So, didn't destroy it. Still there. Wasn't on anyway, but he didn't actually get a chance to destroy it. I know that I have Fiery Dominion to be able to one-shot it. I know that this Mahut, sooner or later, is going to end up moving in this direction so I can get within that 8 to take it out. Or maybe they'll push up enough to get within the 8. So I know I have a shot at it. And again, this goes to that idea of I don't need to score yet. He's not scoring points yet. We're in turn 3. He hasn't scored. So I can wait. So I'm going to wait on that for a little while. One thing you will notice, there it goes, it did clear off, is that I did push my Raj's unit to just touch the objective over here. I went with this might have actually been my about second to last go. And I wanted him to go very late because I wanted this particular Hellbringer Drake to fire first. So that way it doesn't have shots left. It did. He went a little bit earlier with it. The timing doesn't matter too much, but he went a little bit earlier with it. And that let me get to that point, lets me score some points, and also keep in mind, hey, now the Maharaja's on, which means now I could start a conflagration with 2 tokens on it. Both of them just put a token on 2 different pieces. And then with touching this, that lets me get my first conflagration card into my hand. So I would love to get to more. Yes, I could have pushed this unit. They do have range to reach there. But then I'm well within both casting range, which I'm currently just out of, because he'd have to move a little bit further forward for it. So I'm currently out of casting range and out of shooting range, because they're essentially about the same. We'll notice that he got quite a few more things on his list. He got his other thing of warriors with the Hold Ra over here. I said 1 Iron Drake, he's still missing his other, but otherwise his list is pretty much here. He has these 4 giant heavy monsters. You'll notice my Rakshasa is not here. I believe it actually comes in the next turn. And I got, oh no, this turn 3, it should be here. Give me 1 second. Isn't in the next picture? Did I take 2 pictures of this particular one? Sorry, let me turn this off. I did, but you don't see it. I thought I brought it in, but oh, it might just be further over to the side. It's nowhere too useful. This shows the useful things. He's in the back right there, but otherwise, this is what you see. The other unit of Efreet are going to be coming in that far end as well. That's the sort of spots for that. So turn 3, notice, didn't really push forward. Now, we are both sort of stacking up. He's stacking up, though, a giant monster behind this unit. Or behind his Fireforged. I'm just stacking up some Maharabati. So I'm giving them the option, if the next round I want to push forward and go smack this, I can. Or if he pushes in, now they can jump in front. Or can have those ghouls move forward. So, okay, here's a little bit of a different angle. You can see, actually, you can't see too much different there. That's absolutely fine. But we can see what we're facing here. So I actually score some points. I'm now sitting at 3 points. That ends round 3. We go into round 4. Round 4, few things that will be noticed here that ended up happening. Like I said, both these units, I think they were on, but they were kind of all camera, but they weren't doing anything anyway. My very first activation. So when I'm standing here, things I'm thinking about, things I'm looking at, my concerns. Main concern is I don't want to lose my Raja's unit yet. I want to be able to keep getting my spells. I want to keep those guys alive. In order to keep them alive, I need to be able to get them out. Now, I pretty much from turns 4 to like turn 8, I lost initiative like each and every time. Even when I had the pluses. I think one time, the one round, actually most of the rounds I ended up having the pluses because I lost each time. And they weren't even like close die rolls. He activates something else. I believe actually, if memory serves, it was these guys attempting to charge in. But they had a rerollable. I want to say it was about a 4 up on the charge. Missed it. He got about 3 or so inches. He was able to touch the objective, though. As you'll notice, I did end up shooting one of them down with my unit of Efreet that are down here. And I did end up pushing up to try to grab the objective with 3. But he has multiple shooting units, including, in this case, he has what? Fireforged unit sitting here. Whole ballistas, which could rotate to hit this. They didn't, but that was enough to take out 1. So I did lose a guy to this. But my first action is actually to push this unit back. I said, I don't want to lose them yet. And since I want to keep them around, I'm going to make sure I don't lose them by getting them out of the way. They achieved their mission. They got me some points. Now they could leave. That opens up the space then, because they did have a little bit of spatial issues, for the Rakshasa to push forward. So he's on the objective. He can now has elemental conduit, so he can get me that extra point. Sitting on objective here, push to an objective here. I didn't end up taking it because he was able to push enough onto it, but was attempting for those 2. You'll notice, finally does take this out now, but he did have to push forward for it. And yes, it actually took both actions because, again, I saved the dice. So, yeah, but since he pushed forward, he was able to spell into this. So you'll notice I used to have more units. I now have a lot less. Sitting down here. I am plinking shots onto this. He is stacking up his auto successes, but at this point, that monster's down to about 3 wounds. I was able to do quite a bit to it. I'm actually able to get my Maharaj close enough that this distance is close enough for him to be actually casting spells. He can try to put the fire damaging spell on it. He does get it. It takes off a couple tokens, doesn't do too much else, but he does do that for an attempt. But the big thing on this is to notice is this now, he still had, he essentially reformed his warriors in front, which means when he reformed the warriors, which was a very early activation, that he had this and this stuck behind them. Notice, this is an impassable piece of terrain here at the corner, so he can't get past this terrain feature. And the distance that's free is thinner than his base. So when I'm taking a look at it, it's about my 3rd activation. I'm making my decision of what to do. We've now spent almost 4 turns staring at each other without really doing too much. And I said, okay, he put himself in the way. If I were to rush in and tie them down, because they've already went, because they moved forward a little bit, and essentially, I don't think, actually, memory serves, I don't think he even really moved forward a bit, maybe like an inch, but mostly reformed. If I actually end up hitting them and slamming into them, now they're stuck. Now, both these monsters, although this one does shoot and it has a wizard on it, it's not getting forward. It's not doing else to me, and I am stopping this one. So, I do have a spell coming off. I believe it was a it was an Incite Rage. That's why there's a Incite Rage right here. So I incited Rage onto this unit. I have my ghouls take it, and the only purpose of them taking it was so that way they had a move, charge. They didn't swing, but move, charge essentially let them go 12 plus that d6. That was enough to essentially just about auto-win. They might have a small charge, but they do technically count as a banner. Now both these units are tied up. Again, can shoot, take some shots, not something to do too much this particular round, but his turn is now wasted. He does think about jumping, because we were discussing as we're going along. He thinks about jumping the other Iron Drake forward, but he thinks better of it, says, you know what, let me hold it back, because if I push it forward, he knows that I could potentially, next round, I'm ready with another conflagration, I could have a move charge attack, which then would put him into range. Where he's positioned right now, he could jump in front and hit, but he wouldn't get the swing, and then he is here, and if instead I put that Rakshasa after the conflagration card, I could rotate, charge, hit him. So he wants to avoid that for the moment. He's trying to play back a little bit. So turn 4. As we can see then, I have yet to touch this objective, haven't tried it at all. And this little 3-pack over here, they're not really doing much of anything. Sorry, they actually are there. There we go. I did adjust the window a little bit. I could see them more, and that's because it wasn't quite adjusted enough. All right, so we are in turn 4. I'm at 6 points. He's at 5 because he did destroy that piece, and he is grabbing the middle, which is getting him 2 points because he did destroy it. So we go into turn 5. So we're halfway done the game, and not much has happened. Here's the turn where everything really started to turn around. So a few things ended up happening this turn. This is where I definitely need to take some more pictures in the future. Actually, what would probably be most useful. So here's that turn 4 picture. I removed the middle to go straight to the turn 5 so we can kind of see the things that happened. So a few things you'll notice. This unit does get wiped. My guys are enough to be able to do it. So for when I'm looking at this, for things I know I want to do, for timing, for what needs to go early, I know this Heldrake has to go. So obviously the first unit I have is a Sorcerer with the bows to go. Because if the Sorcerer can go, cast one of the spells on themselves. It's the one that causes like Aura Death. That part doesn't matter. But because the Sorcerer is in there, they get Born of Fire, which means they get the heal too, would put a stand back. Now we're looking at, 16 shots, plus I didn't realize this whole time she was actually in range when he pushed up, which means that it only has about 2-3 wounds on it. I can take it out, or most likely take it out. It doesn't work that way, of course. As you'll see, that unit is gone because he wins the roll. His first unit, obviously, is this Heldrake. Actually, I believe it was might have actually just been the caster on top. I don't think it was actually Heldrake to be able to destroy them, and he does. My next spot, though, was these particular guys down here, my ghouls, so I can swing into this to start just doing some damage. Because at this point, if it gets destroyed, I don't care. This guy, the Iron Drake, is too close. He won't be able to get around me. And this guy, once you destroy one stand, he can walk through, so be it. So I go with that. There's also going to end up being a conflagration that goes early, that goes in this unit, because that's the one that I can reach. And the idea is to wipe them out. And as you see, it does succeed. We do wipe them out. Important other things you're going to notice, obviously, because this way's teed up, the only goal for the Raj is to go stand on this objective, get me some points, do that. Another key feature I want to be able to do is to get the charge off to here. I want to be able to destroy this unit. So that's one of my early activations. I would assume I'd get it first, so I went here first, then over to the ghouls, then to this spot. I did not get the middle the way I wanted. However, His other activations, he went with other types of shooting units that just didn't quite get the same effect that he wanted. He actually ends up shooting the whole ballista over here, and just a couple wounds, not enough to take something out. They get to charge in, and they do wipe out those warriors. You'll notice I'm down by 1 because then I get the Fireforge firing in. And that breaks me, happens after the fact, so I know that both had to push forward. So that particular round, they didn't get to shoot, but now I have 2 different units sitting on subjective. Next round, I can unbreak this unit. Now I have 2 different ones. Is he worried about the ones that's going to hurt him, or the one that's going to sit here and score, or maybe engage and kind of tie him up? Couple big important things happen. Off a ritual card, I think I mentioned it before, but off a ritual card, I'm able to, I'm going to clean those out. I'm able to rotate, move, and then charge the side of this Helldrake. With charging the side of that Helldrake, a few good things happen for me. 1, this Iron Drake hasn't done anything because he's stuck behind this combat. When I go here, I'm not engaging this unit of Fireforged. However, where my base sits, currently, it doesn't give this Helldrake enough space to, it can walk over its own unit, but there's not enough space not to be touching me. And obviously this guy with his number of, he potentially only gets his impact, but with that, this guy only had 1, maybe 2 wounds at this point, because he did take another couple little bit of plink damage. I knew that would be enough to take him out. Even if not, okay, so fine, be it. I'm stuck there. But I absolutely do take him out with that. And as you see in the particular picture here, that gets me to a spot where now he's kind of stuck. That Iron Drake isn't going anywhere. I do lose 1 of my ghouls, which opens up space for my Mahut to walk forward and to be able to slam in there. Again, the Mahut just does a move charge because he has 5 impact, 5 trample. It's enough to take out, I think he only takes out stand, but we did measure this out positioning wise, and it can be a little bit tough to see here. But positioning wise, the base on this guy is here. As long as there's at least 1 stand, he's covered up too much. So he spends his turn literally shifting over. He shifted once. Next round, we're going to see he just shifts again. That was his goal of what he started with. He wanted to do more, but if this unit was alive, and they were, I didn't think I would kill them, this Fireforged unit, then he's stuck. So we're now turn 5, and both of these haven't been able to do, honestly, anything. Just due to timing and when they went. Obviously, next round, I'm at some points where I'm going to start losing this unit, but so be it. My Maharabati are now sitting on the middle. I can't score it yet, although I now do have my Fiery Domain ready to go, so can take this out. But they're in the position to at least stop him from scoring. So I do have a scoring unit on both the side pieces. This is a round where I believe they counted for less, so I should only get like 4, I think. We'll talk about the final score. I don't remember the score through all the little bits. I do mark it, but there's always a chance I was a little bit wrong. But one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this was when you kind of stack up your units, this can happen. So be very careful when you're stacking your units that if your opponent can reach you, they might be able to stop you from the things that you wanted to do. All right, turn 5, you see, I'm at 13 points now, and he's sitting on his 5. So he didn't score anything, I scored a bit. We go to turn 6. A few things you're going to notice that happen in terms of turn 6. I, of course, do lose multiple units here. 1, the Maharabati are gone. So what ends up happening with them? Let's go back to talk about it from here. What ends up happening in that particular turn? I lose a stand of Maharabati. This then gets cleared, and I sit there and say, okay, he's going to charge into the flank of this Rakshasa, and he's going to go down. But timing-wise, I had the Maharabati go pretty early. I thought they might charge these whole ballista. I said, no, you know what? A move charge on like a 5 will connect me here, and that will hold it back another round, so that way I can reposition. So that's exactly what I did. That was one of my first actions. I'm willing to throw this away to keep this, because if there's still 3 monsters on the board, he is much more important. So I sacrifice my Maharabati, which is why you see here that they're gone. They pushed in, got destroyed. He is still stuck here. Notice he has cleared the corner now, but that kept them on it. I was able to have my Rakshasa after 3 actions, because again, another conflagration, able to get these off pretty quickly right now. After 3 actions on that conflagration, he was able to charge in the whole ballista, destroy them, and then move/rotate enough so that way if he's going to get hit, he's taking the front. Notice he is on some difficult terrain, so he's not going to get all the same bonuses. I do lose my Raj unit to this particular guy walking through, because the Hellbringer is what took out the ghouls. He is now standing on this point, but I have the other ones, and at this moment, I did do a Fiery Dominion to destroy this. Use the extra actions to do this. I think it was actually that instead of the conflagration. Although it might have been. Conflagrations are the most common ones I do. But now I'm able to score this, and now it's worth 4 points here, and these are worth 2, and then I have the extra, so now I'm scoring 7 points a turn. So I'm fine with giving this up. I don't have much left over here. I think at this point I had... Actually, I don't even think I even had that unit of Efreet anymore. I'm pretty sure they're just gone. So I've kind of given up that entire side. As you see, now I'm at 23 points. We're going into the next round. So I clear out down here. I'm able to double attack the Iron Drake that's back here. So I actually win a roll for once, and I push forward, assault him, take him down. I think the Mahut had help, but between the two, end up taking it down. He does clear out the rest of the army that I had down here, including my Efreet and all that, and gets the objective, turns around, gets ready to face me now, going into essentially turn 8. Here, and rightly so, he had his Fireforge just shoot down my Efreet, because otherwise my Efreet's going to charge and just keep him from shooting. But I'm on the objective, he's not, so I'm scoring points. And I was able to take down a stand. So now I'm at, even though he technically has better AP, I'm at the bonus because I have more shots. I can hopefully survive it out a little bit better. So I score more. I get to 26. He's now sitting on an 8. We go into turn 8. For turn 8, I think this one again was one where I actually won it. Notice, we pop some shots back and forth. That's all that's happening really here. The interesting stuff is what happens over in this particular section. I'm able to get another one of spells because I'm able to sit enough on the objective. Or sorry, ritual, I should say. He is perfectly fine where he is. He rotates, charges in, and gets himself stuck in. He takes a lot of wounds back. What I will say, putting the Maharaj on top with the upgrade that lets him heal 3, and if I cast the spell on myself, he's now Born of Flame, he can heal again, because he takes in one swing like 15 wounds. But then between Conflagration, his normal go, and Ritual, I heal 7 of it back. Takes a few more, heal a good bit back. What we're going to find at the end, I was at some points with a single wound left, but I had healed back at that point like 15 wounds over the course of the game. I was healing back my ghoul units, who would have lost much earlier because of that position. So essentially, we just tie up, but notice, now he's on it. I'm now getting 3 points. He's my only caster left, but if he starts a spell like a ritual like Conflagration, he's on there. He's Arcane Conduit. The Mahut is, the Rakshasa is. That's 3 extra. That means I can still get one each round if we're standing on this. So I get myself another one. Notice I score some more. We're at 32 now. 32 to 9. Oh, sorry, that went sideways. Notice there's very little left now. Again, these two are shooting back and forth. I'm starting to pull ahead on that, but it is taking quite a bit. What happens here? That Mahut ends up taking, the Rakshasa charges in. One shots the Iron Drake, still on the objective. He took some shots over here, back and forth. The other thing is the Mahut took the 3 actions because of the ritual. I think it was a conflagration. I don't think he even did too much other than heal himself. And he just rushed. He actually ended up rushing over here because my goal was if I rush to there, I'm going to clear that out and then do it. If I rush over to here, you have a choice. You have to turn to see him. If not, next round, he's going to charge you. and he's a little bit better in close combat than you are. So he obviously turns, takes him out. He was on 1 wound remaining, but I think overall he had to chew 30 plus wounds across the game because of my heals. But at this point, we were playing the game out. But at this point, honestly, the scores were unachievable. We actually didn't take any more pictures after that. He essentially couldn't cover it. What I thought was very interesting about this game, the reason I want to talk about it, is because one, like nothing happened for 4 turns. We essentially, I will say, the first 4 turns took us like, this was the last round, so we played maybe a little bit longer than the 2.5, and no one else cared. But we probably spent about an hour on those first 4 turns because we were both standing there saying, okay, do I push? Do I commit? And I just before this recorded a video on movement, and this highlights some of those ideas of when do you push, when do you commit, and is it a good idea or not? We both had the feeling that if I push a unit forward, and that's all I do, because they're the only ones who can go forward at that moment, they're just going to get destroyed, and that's not a trade I want. I'm not going to get anything good out of it. So I kind of held back. I held back until essentially turn 4/turn 5 before we actually did anything. Then the game really started to kind of pick up some pace. I was just trying to plant some shots. I was doing well on the far end, but in the middle, he was able to get more because he had both shooting and magic. I couldn't compete with that, so I lost my sorcerer, although it did get pretty close. Had that went the other way, his warlord goes down. That actually might have been worse for me, because now my Rakshasa can't essentially get in the way. I'd have to hit that other unit. Well, if he kills that unit, then his Iron Drake comes in. I'm probably not surviving that, depending on dice rolls. It gets really iffy. Monster v monster, when they're monster destroyers, can be really bad, especially that one has unrelenting blows. So if he rolls a bunch of 1s, I want to say it's like 11 dice on the attack, if memory serves. But if he rolls a couple 1s, he could have 11 or more hits. And on one of the times, he actually had more hits than he had dice rolls originally, because he rolled like 4 or 5 1s. It only missed like a couple. But what I thought was very interesting about that one was also that idea of be careful the way you stack things. You stack a unit and then something behind it. Well, if I can reach that unit, and this is really what you want to use, now you can't. Will I lose my unit? Sure. But if I can stop you for 1 to 2, and in that case, I stopped for close to 3 turns, all of the things that happen between healing and just dice rolls and all of that. If I can stop you for long enough, that's a win in my book. I had a 110 point unit hold back like 400 points, maybe a little bit more. Because yeah, that Hellbringer Drake could have pushed forward. It really just wants to shoot, all of that. But it wants to go sit on that objective. It doesn't care about a unit of Rajikar. They're not going to hurt it. So it rather just push forward, take it out. You still have your magic. You could still take those guys down. There are not that many wounds in there. Even its normal swings with some magic, you will destroy them. It did. It destroyed them in close combat, actually, I believe. So in the particular game, when it's all said and done, I won by, I want to say it was 44-17. I think was the final score. The game can be closer than the score looks. This game was much, much, much closer than that score looks. By score, I won by, 20, almost 30 points or 25 points or whatever it is. But in reality, that score really didn't start happening until very late in the game. Before that, until like turn 6, we're within 5-6 points of each other because the score is like 10-4. There's almost no points scored. It was very late when it happened. And had I not been able to get some of the charges and the placements that I did, had my opponent not stacked in the certain way that he did, I will say I was very surprised. One thing was all of his monsters were kind of on one board half, and that happened to be where my monster fighting was, really. Me personally, I would have put one of the Iron Drakes on the far end and just swept through that point. And if all he does is eat 1 or 2 of those units, hey, if he eats a unit or 2 and then sits on objective, that's pretty good for me because I got a good amount of shooting otherwise. With that amount, they don't all have to do something. And like I said, able to tie them down, able to get good position. I will say it was a list I was worried about fighting because of how much shooting and the giant monsters. Took a lot, took some luck, took dice rolls on both sides, of course, but was able to pull it out. All right, when I do this in the future, I do want to take more pictures. I do want to record games as well, just didn't have the setup for it at the time. I said it's a different store, so I don't know if it would have been okay for me to do it right then, but maybe in the future I will. I have to say, absolutely great game, absolutely great opponent. Had a really good time. We said at the end, it was one of the, more interesting games that we played, at least for me, in quite a while, and an absolute nail biter that the score doesn't show. Because had one thing changed, I think that score would have flipped immediately. Had those ghouls not got in, had the Maharabati not made that charge, had my Rakshasa not went to the side of that Helldrake, any one of those things starts changing, I think the score could have really flipped around. But hopefully this was interest of anyone who ended up listening. So I'm probably going to go back and maybe talk about the other games. I'm interested to do so. I just don't know. This one, to me, had the most interesting things to say rather than just telling you what happened in a game. I'll come clean about it. I don't watch a lot of battle reports personally. I'm not that kind of person. I'll play them in the background, but I don't actively watch them. So I try to put in what I think is interesting. If you have suggestions on things, I'm always listening, of course. And if you don't like this format, that's absolutely fine. I don't blame anyone for that. But I know it's a little bit more of the old school way, but maybe it just highlighted some particular ideas. All right, well, that is enough for me for this particular video. You should be seeing this, my video on movement, and maybe something else depending on... It's only 11:30. I'll probably be done for recording tonight, but I'll record something else tomorrow. We'll see. All right, well, on behalf of everyone on the show then, have a good hobbying. Some great gaming.